How the heck are you guys? I am Fastidious. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my video on all the huge number of hero buffs, hero adjustments, hero reworks we got in the latest patch. If you're curious about this patch, it is a monster. Whether it's the biggest patch of all time, I think we could argue it. You know, we've had huge drops in the past, like the patch that introduced Semra or something. That was completely game-changing, right? But in terms of quantity and length, this is the largest patch of all time. It's the longest patch notes of all time. It is just a crazy, crazy, enormous update. But go check out that video if you haven't yet, where I broke down the whole thing. Or maybe watch it again, because it's confusing. There's so much in this update. That's why this video here is dedicated to just the heroes. The hero buffs, the hero reworks, the hero adjustments, the hero optimizations, whatever the heck you want to call them. Also, guys, I want to quickly say, if you don't know, I do have another channel. It's called Fastidious Gaming, and I mostly cover Raid Shadow Legends on that channel. I'm bringing this up today. I like to bring it up once or twice a month, just to say, if you didn't know, go check it out, subscribe. If you're not playing Raid and you're curious about it, today would be the best day ever to download. If you like Assassin's Creed, this morning they launched their Assassin's Creed collab. I really hope collaborations like this come to Watcher of Realms. It's crazy. At CO, you get 100% for free just by logging in 7 days in a row. I explain it all in a ton of detail in this video, and I'm going to be covering the event non-frickin' stop. So you can see right here behind me, Fastidious Gaming. I'll put a link in the description in the top pinned comment. Go ahead, give it a look. The game's definitely a lot of fun, and this collaboration particularly is crazy. I also just got a brand new download link that gives a truly OP legendary on download and 3 of the best epics in the game over your first couple hours of playing. So check it out. You'll find the link to my channel in the description. Let's get back to the video.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
So let's kick this off with Diaochan right at the top, the least believable adjustment of the bunch. You guys let me know in the comments if you agree once you hear my spiel about this. Before I begin though, I do want to say, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please take a second and do so and give the video a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. It really helps us grow our community. All right, Diaochan, Moon's Radiance. So they are saying something they've said 4 times before. This is the 5th time we've gone to patch notes with a line like this. Fixed an issue where basic attacks in Song of Sorrow stance were considered healing skills. Unhealable heroes can now normally gain the inspiration and penetration effects granted by the basic attacks in Song of Sorrow stance. If you don't know, Song of Sorrow is black mode, that is damage buffing mode, and Song of Hope is white mode, which is like damage mitigation, healing mode. They're actually keying in on a slightly different issue than they have in the past. Here they're saying, oh, some of her basics were considered healing skills. Now that's fixed. But the real issue, and I'm sure what they are trying to get at and what they're trying to address, is she keeps form switching on auto. She's still doing it to this day. Like I said, this is the 5th time they have changed Diaochan since she came out. Not once have they buffed or nerfed her kit. They just keep trying to fix this one issue. She's got 2 stances. She's functionally 2 different units in each stance, right? There's black Diaochan and white Diaochan. They are different. For a lot of content, we just want black Diaochan, and for a lot of content, particularly in the arena, she just goes on auto and switches to white mode. Even though we save it, even though we do this, that, and the other, you guys let me know if after this update it is fixed. But I'll tell you, when I was grinding for Overlord on Sunday night, I forgot to do it until there was like 15 minutes left. I just barely made it. And part of the reason it took me an extra couple minutes, normally it's very easy, is because I had multiple attacks on auto when I wasn't paying full attention when Diaochan was switching from black mode to white mode. And when that happens in an arena battle, in a close arena battle, you lose. Because units get by, because you don't kill them fast enough, because she's not providing inspiration and penetration, and it's insane. So, is it fixed this time? You tell me. I haven't tested it since Sunday before the announcement. It absolutely was not working. It is now not Sunday, right? The buff went through yesterday morning. It's now Thursday. Maybe it's all fixed. I have a really hard time believing that. This is the 5th time they have addressed an issue like this. All right, some really quick stuff, and then we got some really long stuff. Talon, they have optimized the description of Berserker Stance. Berserker Stance is the stance she's in when you deploy her on a melee tile, and she becomes the white bear. They optimized the description, nothing else is changing. Toreador, they have optimized the skill description of Atrocious Trample. That's one of his passives. Just changing the description doesn't really matter. This next one does though. Ezarth, the World Eater. Holy crap, we saw the patch notes before the update. I'm going over them after, so I actually know a lot about how these changes manifested. And when I read this, a week ago when this was originally announced, I was waiting to see what would happen in the update. I was like, all right, there's some issue with Ezarth when it comes to his BP calculation. Well, the change has made him the second best BP hero in the entire game. He went from a pretty average to maybe even slightly below average Lord in terms of BP, not bad, but not special, to the second best hero in the game. If you don't know, Lords get a BP boost when you're affiliating them in Guild Wars, right, with your Demon Soldiers, so Lords get more. But at base, he already can get over 130k BP. Only Iovar can do that of the Lords. He is second just to Iovar, and then of course, with the boost, he's well over 140k BP. Only Iovar is a better BP unit right now in the game than Ezarth. The raw BP is incredible. The BP with the Lord boost is even more incredible. This was a huge change. Overnight, he became one of the absolute top GVG units in the game. He already is pretty usable on defense, and now he is the second best option in the game on offense because he gives the second most affiliation because of his BP after this fix. He's second only to Iovar. That's insane. All right, Arrogance. This was a very, very hyped up buff, and let me tell you, it definitely was not worth the hype. They had us vote on this. For the first time ever, there was like a community vote, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and they listed 10 heroes. It was either 8 or 10 heroes, and they said, you get to vote which unit's gonna get a buff. And by a large margin, Arrogance won that vote. He was the player's selection, the player's choice of all the units they listed to get buffed. It's just not that much. It really isn't. It does not represent anything close to a return to his former glory. If you guys don't know, Arrogance was definitively a top 5 DPS in this game for a long time, and he was one of the most versatile units in the game. He's still super versatile because he's so good for single target, AoE, anti-air, not anti-air, all of that stuff, but he just has been power crept the heck out of by some of the newer fighters and newer DPS in this game. So he's still really good. He's great for progression, but he does fall off in the end game. Let's go through the skill adjustments now. They are a bit overwhelming, but they're still worth breaking down because they are better. So previously, with Hellfire, his ultimate, he would enter the Berserker stance, and he would deal 260 to 360% damage depending on skill ups, and he would increase his attack range. So normally he has that hammer range where it's the 2 rows of 3 and then the extra 2 tiles forward, similar to Zila or Valeriya or Araka. A lot of units have this range now, and then when he ults, very similar to those units as well, he fills that out. So the missing things on the side, they fill out, so the range becomes a 3x4 tile rectangle. So this is how it is, this is how it's staying, don't worry, but let's continue. When he attacks any distant target, his hero weapon would transform into a demon boomerang. This is a really nice damage dealing weapon in his kit. It's very good, and it only was getting triggered when he was attacking a distant target. They have addressed that now. So the first part remains the same. When you ult with him, he enters Berserker stance, he deals that range of damage depending on his skill ups, and he gets the increased range. However, now all of his attacks are guaranteed to be the Demon Boomerang. Whether the target is distant or not, he's putting out the Boomerang the whole ultimate. It is better, but it is not, game changing. It's just, it's a nice improvement, and it's gonna make him a lot more consistent. That's for sure, but it doesn't move the needle in a significant way, at least when you're deep into the game. Now with his passive here, Devil's Dance, Demon Blades previously had a 15 to 25% chance, depending on skill ups, to trigger a double strike. Now they still have that, but also the Demon Boomerang also has a chance for double strike. So when he's ulting, he's guaranteed the Demon Boomerang, and those guaranteed boomerangs now come with a chance for double strike. So he's getting that double strike chance benefit with all of the attacks he does. It's still just a 1 in 4 chance though. If they really wanted to take Arrogance to the next level, they should have changed the chance for this to happen. So they should have had it go from 15% to 25% with no skill ups to skill ups to maybe something like 25% to 40% with no skill ups, or maybe 20% to 35%. Right now, I still just don't think it's enough to, push him towards his former heights, right? he's still gonna be great. He still is great. If you have a young account and you pull an Arrogance, GG's in the chat, but he's fallen off a cliff, especially for boss content in the late and end game. Now, the next part, very simple. We're kind of already out of the big changes before we talk about Awakenings. They optimize the skill description of Devil's Dance to kind of accommodate these new changes, and that's in certain languages, so cool. Let's go to the Awakening adjustments. The A3, he now deals additional increased damage of 20% to targets inflicted with burning. This obviously is something. This is good, but it's only going to help players that already had an A3 Arrogance. So with that A3, they didn't write the before and after here, which is like weird as hell. But we do have the boy Dr. D's. I found an old video of his from September 20th, 2024. Go check it out. And you can see previously it was 15% extra damage to targets with burning. So for people lucky enough to have an A3 Arrogance, you're now getting 5% more extra damage to targets with burning. Is that good? Yes. Is it that good as the theme with this entire buff? No, of course not. It's 5% extra damage. Keep in mind, with damage boosts like this, it gets added to the pile of all the damage boosts, so it's not going to be like a raw output of 5% more damage from what you had before. With all the other stacks of damage, you're probably looking at an increase in damage of between 3 and 4%. Definitely good, but again, it's not a huge game changer. Now they also changed the A5. I had to dig up the original for this from a very OG place you're gonna see in a second, but let's get into it. So the first part, everything here is how it was before, basically. So he immediately gains the maximum attack speed bonus from his talent. If you didn't know what that was, he can stack up to 3 times 40 attack speed. So 40 times 3, he instantly gets 120 attack speed when he enters the Berserker stance, so when he ults. The first 5 basic attacks in that Berserker stance, the damage will be increased by 100%. This is just a 2x on whatever the damage was already at. That is very good. And then the new thing, he inflicts a 20% vulnerability physical damage for 5 seconds. Having a source of vulnerability, excellent. Having it for 5 seconds, it will help him a lot, right? Because those 5 seconds will line up with his attack speed boost from this Awakening when he ults, and it's gonna line up with some of his basic attacks when he ults and enters the Berserker stance. But again, it's just not crazy. You know, if this was 15 seconds, like, then maybe we're cooking, but 5 seconds, that's not, you know, what's the uptime on that? He's ulting maybe once a minute, so you're talking like a 1 in 12 uptime, a 1/12 uptime. I mean, that's just not good. If you want to know how I know what changed, I had to go to an old Mob Bucket video from way back in the day, pretty close to when I started playing, August 19th, 2023. I probably have my own video from this time, but I Googled it and Mob Bucket came up. So shout out to one of the OGs in this game. You can see the first things were all there. The only thing they changed is they just added that vulnerability for 5 seconds. I don't know what they were doing. They hyped this buff up so much and it's just whatever. Like, it's barely gonna make him better. He'll be better. He's better. It's like, why make a big hullabaloo out of this thing? Like, why even have us vote if you're gonna give him like a 3 out of 10 buff? It is a buff. I'm not calling it a nerf or something. He is better, but he's like a little tiny bit better. So here's a big one. We've got Gisele, the Eternal Duelist. She is an ancient exclusive legendary. She's from the Chaos faction and the Nightmare faction. And I think it's not a hot take, it's almost objective to say that she is the worst ancient exclusive legendary in this game. So this is a buff we have longed for a while, and let's see how good it actually is. So the first change comes as a talent adjustment with her signature mark effect, Bloodbane. We're gonna go to my website to see what this is like, because actually I haven't updated it yet since this update came yesterday. That will come this weekend. But you can see with Bloodbane, she's gonna inflict 1 stack of it on the target whenever she deals damage. So she deals single target damage from her basic attack. For example, over here, she does that. She hits the same target 3 times. She gives 3 Bloodbane stacks. So once she reaches 3 Bloodbane stacks, when she deals damage to an enemy with 3 Bloodbane stacks, she's gonna consume 5% of her HP, so she drops her HP. Pretty relevant as a Chaos unit, a little clunky in Gisele's case. Then she's going to remove those Bloodbane stacks, and she does a little burst AoE, a little mini burst of AoE. Previously, it was 120% AoE damaged up to 3 enemies near the main enemy, right? Now, it is not an insignificant change. Now it's going to be 5 targets near the main target you're hitting, and it's 160% AoE damage. Now, is this enough to take Gisele to some crazy new height from this one change? Of course not, but it is significant, right? It's 33% more damage when you scale to 120 to 160, and it is, what is this, 66% more enemies going from 3 to 5. So it definitely is something. She definitely should be better. We'll have to think of ways to test it out, but just reading it, I'm thinking Gisele was so weak and so unreliable and dealt such limited AoE damage. The way to fix her would be make this way, way stronger, or make her basic attack hit 5 enemies. So she's putting out all these stacks of Bloodbane and then all this is happening. Obviously, they didn't do that, but we'll see. Now there is a skill adjustment to Oblivion Strike. This is her second passive. Previously, she increased the damage she would deal to enemies with HP percent higher than 60% down to 50%. The threshold changes based on her skill ups, and the increase in damage would range between 14% and 20% depending on your skill ups. They have changed this in a decent way. They've only changed the damage. The threshold is the same. It's 60% or more without skill ups. It's 50% or more with skill ups. And then you'll see the damage is a significant boost. So instead of 14 to 20% depending on skill ups, it's now 25% to 40%. So at max skill ups, the damage increase to these units is twice as high as it was before. But that's it. And this doesn't address the problem in Gisele's kit. The problem in Gisele's kit is she's a single target unit with the lightest sprinkling of AoE, and that's not enough. Nothing here is going to make her a competent single target unit when compared to the best single target DPS in the game, and clearly they've added very little AoE. She's hitting 2 more targets with this Bloodbane thing, and she's hitting, when she hits those 2 targets and the previous 3 targets, so now 5 targets, she's hitting them for 40% more damage, 33% increased damage. It's just not going to be much at all. The problem with Gisele, if I click off this, you're going to see single target on the basic. Gross. If we go to the ultimate here, when that's triggered, she rotates around and she spins like a whirlwind. Kind of seems like she would be dealing AoE damage everywhere. Not at all. Not at all. She does 100% damage with max skill ups. 100% damage. That is so low for an ultimate. And it's all counted as single target damage. So it's kind of like a bad version of Amani's ultimate. Like Amani the Epic is a much better version of this. This is terrible. She's still gonna suck booty cheeks. Let's check the awakenings now. Maybe they somehow completely change her. So the A1, the ultimate's damage frequency multiplies, but the ultimate's damage multiplier is reduced. It's less damage? They thought it'd be too OP if it stayed the same. Previously, it was a reduction of... Okay, so the frequency must be a huge jump in frequency. I actually just got A1 Gisele, so I'm curious about this. I already awakened her. I probably should have waited to test it. I can test it on the test server if you guys really want to see that. But previously, the frequency multiplies, so cool. It's still all single target, gross. And then before this change, the damage multiplier reduction was -40. Now it's minus half that, it's -20, but she's still getting penalized. Stuff like this makes no sense. She's booty cheeks. Why are you acting like she's so good? You have to neuter her with this. Why do you have to spay her with this -40 and now -20? She sucks, Moonton. She's bad. She's the biggest fart in the game still after all these changes. Let's check the last few things. The A3, when deployed, immediately she gains 100% rage, so she's ready to ult right away. She also cannot die during the ultimate. Let's compare that. You're gonna see the when deployed, immediately she gets a full rage bar. That was already there. The change is the inability to die, so basically an unyielding state. I don't see where that's gonna make her so much better. You know, she was already not getting deployed because her damage sucks so much. You don't care if when you don't deploy her, she doesn't die because you're not going to deploy her. She still sucks so much. I'm getting angry now. My God. Anything else? They changed her bond skill. So if you don't know, she has a bond with Celine. 2 absolutely poo-poo characters have a bond together. Isn't that cute? So before, when you obtained Celine, you would unlock the following bonus for Gisele. It would reduce her first deployment cost by 2, and it increased her damage by 20% for 60 seconds during her first deployment. Now, it still reduces her first deployment costs by 2. So what is Gisele's cost, actually? I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm guessing it's like 18. It's 12. She's a cheap little lady. So she's on the cheaper side in that aspect. So now she's down to 10. I mean, maybe that's why she sucks so much, because she's so cheap. And now her damage increases 30% for 60 seconds instead of 20%. So it's 33% more damage, jumping 10% net, going from 20 to 30, whatever. Let's move on to someone actually good, Iovar. So they've changed his talent. Before, he would conjure 1 flying sword every 4 seconds. You can have up to 12 of these at the same time. For every extra allied marksman on the field, he would increase his conjuring speed of these swords. So 4 seconds is the baseline. It could get faster. When there were 4 extra marksmen in the battle, so 4 on top of him, the conjuring speed would max out, and you'd get 1 sword every 2 seconds. So if there were 4 other marksmen, not just piercers, just marksmen anywhere on your team, right? In either faction comp you were bringing or whatever you're working with, you would basically reduce it from 4 seconds with each additional one by half a second. So there's 1 other, it goes to 3.5. There's 2 other, it goes to 3. There's 3 other, it goes to 2.5. And then when there was 4, you'd be down at the 2 seconds. It is way better now. So he conjures 1 every 4 seconds. You can have up to 12. They also added a brand new thing that all of his damage against anti-air is increased by 20%. You mostly use him in anti-air content, so it's gonna feel like a 20% damage boost, you know, on top with the other multipliers. Now, the system for getting swords is improved. For every extra allied marksman on the field, he's going to increase his conjuring speed. When there are 2 extra, he's now maxed it out. So not 4 extra, just 2 extra. So if you think of something like boss content, where maybe you're just bringing a Lady Alex and a Silas, or a Hex and a Calypso, I don't know what content you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's already enough. So 2 other marksmen besides him, and you are good to go. Remember, they don't even have to be piercers, they just have to be marksmen. So very quickly, you can already max out the conjuring speed when you deploy him, as long as there are 2 other marksmen. And that increase in anti-air damage is gonna be really relevant. Content you use him in, like anti-air arena, like Gear Aid 3, all the targets are anti-air targets, so all his damage is going to benefit from that 20% increase. Now on to the next thing, they have adjusted his skill Lethal Bladestorm. This is his second passive. Previously, after an allied marksman casted their ultimate, he would gain a flying sword, and the following 3 basic attacks after they cast that ultimate, Iovar would ignore an extra 15 to 30% defense, depending on the skill ups. Afterwards, he still gets the 1 flying sword, but the following 4 basics, so not 3, so 1 whole extra attack, he's going to ignore defense, and the amount of defense he ignores is a lot more. So it starts at 30%, double where it started before at 15, and it goes up to 50%, 20% more than where it was at full skill ups previously with 30%. Ignoring half defense, really good. Only 4 basics. Unless you have other marksmen ulting all the time, you're still not going to feel this like you should. So Lady Mina, I'm gonna go really fast now because I made an entire video dedicated to this. I'll put the thumbnail right here. I'll link it in the description and throw it in the comments. This was a major buff. They really did change her. They did something really good by listening to us and giving her a really good buff. They even announced that she was getting buffed before her banner ended. However, they didn't announce what the buff would be until after the banner ended. They just announced it, whatever, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever I made that video. I think that's really weird. I think they really owe it to us to run her again. Some people like me, once they announced any buff was coming, did go ahead and summon. A lot of people summoned for her anyway because she was a limited, she was a guarantee. Probably wasn't worth missing out on. I covered this extensively at the time. But you know, if you were super tight on summons with the holidays coming and you didn't know what the buff was, I'm sure some people skipped this or didn't go for extra copies. I'm sure that's real. And now she got a buff. But definitely go check it out. I'll go really fast. Previously, her basic attack was single target and it was 100% magic damage. Now it is a 3-target, multi-target move. She hits 3 enemies and it's 70% piercing damage. Way more relevant. She's basically a piercing damage unit. So having magic damage was just terrible. Now she at least has a relevant amount of damage. The most significant thing, though, is hitting the 3 enemies because she puts out marks with her talent and debuffs with her talent based on dealing damage and with her basic attacks, and now she's hitting more units with her basics. You can see previously her basics would inflict Blood Sigil for 2.5 seconds and a 50% slow on targets. Now it's going to be a Blood Sigil mark for 5 seconds. Every 5 basics, she still does the enhanced attacks. That stuff's all good, but when she does the enhanced attacks every 5 seconds, the Blood Sigil from that is 5 seconds as well, not 2.5 seconds. So Blood Sigil, her signature mark, interacts with a lot of her kit. It's lasting much longer. Her ult lasts 2 seconds longer. Previously, it maxed out at 10 seconds. Now it's at 12. She deals damage every 2 seconds from her ult. So she used to deal damage 5 times at max skill ups. Now she deals at 6. This is better. Her A3 previously is what enabled her to start having basics that would hit 3 targets. Now, obviously, she can do that naturally as part of her kit. So they kind of revised this. They did keep the last part, when a basic attack deals damage to an enemy inflicted with Blood Sigil. This is better now too because the uptime in Blood Sigil is much better. She's going to restore HP equal to 2% of her max HP. That part remains the same. Then they added an extra part. When the ult is not active, all her damage is increased by 12% when she hits targets under Blood Sigil, and the allied hero on the field with the highest attack also has their damage increased by 12% when they're hitting targets inflicted by Blood Sigil. The final thing is they buffed her artifact. They just made it way more consistent. They're kind of messing up here. Previously, it had this attack boost from 20% up to 30% depending on promotion, but what they changed was this. Previously, upon the death of an enemy inflicted with Blood Sigil, she would restore her rage by 2%, and this would get timed out for 5 seconds. So you would need this to perfectly line up basically every 5 seconds with a kill to get even a moderate benefit. You're talking an additional 0.4% rage per second, essentially. It's not that good. Now, it's still not that good, but it's so much more reliable because every single enhanced basic attack will restore 2% rage. She does an enhanced basic attack every 5 basics. You're probably going to build her at around a 1.0 second attack interval, maybe a little bit faster. Essentially, as long as she has stuff to hit, like clockwork, she's going to get 2% rage more every 5 seconds. I really suggest watching my big video because I give so much background info and I dive a lot deeper, but there's your quick little rundown. All right, our final hero buff, and it is a pretty big one. This is going to be for Valeriya. Valeriya had a moment when she first came out. I think it was October 2023 because it was with the, whatever it was called, the Dark Castle event, or what was that event called? I'm blinking on it now. The event with Falsia. We've had it twice. Some Falsia's Castle, whatever it was. It was like a Halloween-y, spooky event. Valeriya and Broke here were introduced on a banner back then, and when she first came out, she was awesome. But since she's come out, you know, a lot of good fighters have entered the game. Neza, Sun Wukong, Kagiri, Numera, the list goes on and on. She basically got power crept the heck out of, and the one thing that made her so cool is that she wouldn't die when she ulted, got kind of nerfed, or they adjusted that a couple months after she came out. So previously, it used to be as long as she didn't die right as the ult ended, she wouldn't die. Now, it's if she would have died at any point in the ult, she gets unyielding during her ult, she dies immediately. That stays the same, but they did do a decent bit to make her stronger. The key thing, really, is something every decent fighter in this game needs, an expanded attack range. So she used to just have one tile in front of her, a one-tile range. That is not going to cut it in 2026 Watcher of Realms, so they expanded it. Now it's 2 tiles ahead of her. It doesn't seem like much, but it just makes her a lot more viable for a lot more things, especially in terms of progression. She's not just a boss killer now. She's not just a left side Gear Dungeon 2 thing. She'll be more relevant, particularly on newer and developing accounts, because that's just really good. Now, with her ultimate, Blood Infusion, one of the things that would happen was a damage increase. It used to go from 80% up to 120% depending on skill ups. Now it goes from 100% up to 140%. Do I think that's so good? No. It's like, what? It's going to be an increase of like 17% damage. When you factor in all the other damage boosts, it's probably going to come out to like a 15% damage increase compared to where it was before. Is that nothing? No, it's not nothing, but is it going to be crazy? No, it's not going to be crazy. Let's go to her A3. That's really when she's doing most of the good stuff she does. She used to ignore 20% of the enemy's defense at A3. Now it's 30%, a 30% shred, 10% more shred, a 33% increase. I like it. The A4 also got a buff. This is really good. Extra crit rate. Who needs that nowadays? No one's struggling to crit cap Valeriya. So instead, more penetration. So now she has a baseline of 8% penetration on top of any buffs, any other effects, and then when you have her A3, that's a 30% during the ult. So she has a baseline during the ult when she's A4 or higher of shredding 38% of defense. Finally, the A5. Previously, during the ultimate, she had a 50% chance to accumulate 2 stacks of power of the sword for each attack, up to 12 stacks total. Sounds good. She did usually get there, but her ultimate's not that long, so it's hard to get 12 stacks. With a 50-50 chance, you could get screwed. Gonna be a lot harder to get screwed now, and she's actually gonna be a lot stronger. Power of the sword, by the way, is just a mechanism in her kit that's, unique to her that really revs up her damage. And now she can get more stacks of that during the ult, and she can get it more reliably. So at A5, during the ultimate, she has a 70% chance to get 2 stacks every single time she does an attack, and you can stack up to 15 times. So 25% more stacks, right? From 12 to 15. That's really good. Another good thing is going to be her exclusive artifact. Known to be one of the weakest exclusive artifacts in the entire game, just because crit damage is so undervalued and because she's not as relevant in bosses since she's been power crept. Previously, during the ultimate, for every attack she dealt, she would increase her crit damage by up to 35% at max promotion. So if it's maxed out, kind of good. You get 105% increase crit damage by the time you've done 3 hits. This does take some time. Her ultimate isn't that long. This is not as good as, just putting a Wailing Skull on her, or nowadays putting a Shattered Hilt on her, right? So this definitely needed to be looked at. Nowadays, we definitely expect exclusive artifacts to be the best in slot for most heroes, at least for some content. This was basically unusable. It really was. Because it was only during the ultimate, her brief ultimate, which she usually dies at the end of, depending on the content. After, though, for each attack, she'll increase her damage by the same amount, up to 35%, but you can stack it up to 4 times. That's kind of a lot, so 140%, and this effect still expires after the ultimate ends. So it's still brief, right? It still takes 4 hits now, but you're getting a couple really big hits at the end. Do I think this makes her artifact good? No. Do I think in theory it makes it usable for maybe a couple things? Probably, right? I could see this maybe taking her to the next level on like left side Gear Dungeon 2, at least through stage 10. So this is something. I don't think it's much, but this is something. Finally, a couple other adjustments. They optimize the HP deduction logic for heroes who deal damage to themselves to prevent a self-inflicted death. So heroes can no longer off themselves. I didn't know they could before, but that's good. And then finally, they did fix an issue where Valise's summons would continuously follow Sithra's summons when Valise and Sithra were deployed together. I'm just gonna say it, I see Valise's summons sprinting all over the map all the time, so I don't know. Let me know if you see that getting fixed. Let me know if you see Diaochan getting fixed. All in all, if I could review these changes and the buffs, I'll go through it really quickly. Talon, Torador, we can ignore. Diaochan, I'll believe it when I see it. If her switching actually works on auto now, or rather, it doesn't switch anymore on auto if you don't want it to, then that's a huge win, but I doubt it. The Ezarth BP thing is crazy. It's a way bigger difference than you might realize. It's crazy. Arrogance buff, it is a buff, technically, and that's it. He'll be a little bit better. Gisele, it is a buff, even worse than the other one. So half-baked, there's no way they tested this. Granted, I haven't tested it, but I've read a lot of kits. This isn't gonna move any needles. No one's gonna take Gisele off the bench. Iovar, this probably is the one I need to test the most and the one I'm most curious about. There's some meat on that bone. Getting the swords up faster is gonna be very clutch for burst content, like certain things in the arena, and definitely high levels of Gear Aid 3 if he's like sniping the right side, making sure he always has enough swords. This feels very something. And maybe for progression, it makes him a much more viable marksman. I don't think this is going to take him to the level of the top marksman in the game, but this is going to be nice, and I think this is cool. Lady Mina, very significant stuff, very impactful changes, and Valeriya, pretty significant. All in all, for the quantity of buffs, there's nothing that's like a huge home run here. Lady Mina's the closest, but there's nothing like a Zealous getting buffed or a Beatrix getting buffed or a Kai getting buffed that really shakes it all up. It's cool. It's not that cool. That's my final verdict. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's a long video. This is why I split it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my editor, Mitchell, for editing this. He's back from his winter vacation, so if you notice the edits being a bit better, maybe he'll do a little wow sound effect. Wow, because he's back. Awesome. Thank you. Share with your mother. Subscribe to the channel. I've been Fastidious, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.